Welcome, everybody. Welcome back to the International Brotherhood of Magicians official podcast. I am your host, Jason Michaels, joined by my co-host, Scott Cantrell. Unfortunately, Ben Young is not available today to join us. He's traveling, but we have a special guest. And Scott, normally we do all like we jam and we talk about what's
Yeah,
been going on. I don't want to screw around
not
with
at
any of
all.
that today
Let's jump
because we
in.
have a very special guest. We're very fortunate that we are being joined by one of the guests of honor who are being honored at the I.B.M. convention. We have Randy Pitchford joining us. Randy, thank you so much for
What?
joining us.
You got Randy Pitchford? How did you make
I
that
know. How did
happen?
we do that?
I tell you what, I don't know. I somehow somebody pulled a string on this, and this is pretty awesome. But
Very happy to spend some time with you guys.
oh yeah, and thank you, yeah, thank you so much. So here's the thing: I read your article in the Linking Ring, and it was in the March edition of the Linking Ring, and Dale Salwick wrote it.
Yeah, Dale did a great job.
It was a great article, but it has
Yeah.
brought up so many questions. I'm like, oh, I have to ask. I have to ask more details.
Let's
So,
go.
all right, let's get into it. Let's get into it. So, here's the thing. Here's what is so cool. Like anybody who knows you or knows of you, they know the things that they've heard in the press. Okay, you bought the Magic Castle, you bought Genie magazine. But here's what I'm interested in. Like you're the real deal magician. Like you started as a magician. Know you know how to do magic. Like you worked at Wizards. I want to hear about that. And you don't
Yeah.
have to go all the way back to the very beginning, but I'm very interested in the type of magic that you like, how all of that. So tell me about that.
Yeah, I know. Magic's everything. I love it. I got the bug at a very young age. And yeah, when I was moved to Los Angeles to go to school, UCLA, I paid my way through college gigging, and I was
That is
very lucky
awesome.
to get that job at Wizards because I had a salary. Who I had braces on my teeth still, and I was like making a salary as a magician. When does that ever happen? It was quite amazing. But yeah, I love it. I just did a bit at this thing called the Penny Arcade Expo a week and a half ago.
Mhm.
Audience of 2,000 people.
Oh wow.
And it's kind of a tradition. It's a video game and nerd culture convention in Boston and in Seattle, and it's kind of been a tradition for me to do magic as part of the programming.
That's
And
awesome.
I created an original bit for that. And then right now I'm in Shanghai, and then I go to Tokyo. But when I'm back in the States in a week and a half, 2 weeks, I'm going to Hilton Head Island, and I'm going to be performing at Carrie Pollock's Comedy Magic
That's
Cabaret.
great.
That is
And
awesome.
yeah, and then I've got a week of work in Dallas, and then I'm going to Hollywood, and I'm working the parlor in the Magic Castle. So
That's phenomenal.
So is that your
yeah, I love
favorite?
it.
Do you like the stand up more than the close up? What's your jam?
Traditionally I'm a close-up magician, but I've been doing a lot more stand-up stuff. You could reach a bigger room,
Yeah.
and I don't know, it's fun to keep challenging, myself and pushing into different territories. I actually I got a couple of illusions, and I had an idea for the Wakeling song. So Bill Smith is making me
Oh,
a new he's making me a new version right now that I'm gonna perform. So we'll see. Maybe I'll mess around with that level of stuff in a bit.
Well, let us know when that debuts. I want to take a look at that. Jason had a Wakeling in his show for a while. It's a fantastic illusion, but I'm anxious to see the twist you're putting on it.
for sure.
Well, I'll tell you the idea. So I love it. I love the illusion. And I like the conceit that Alan Wakeling used, that it's a surgery table, and that's how he justified the straps. But
Right.
the rest of it didn't make any sense. Like the boxes, the little
Yeah.
flaps in the front of the boxes you open, they're
Yep.
great for the illusion, but there was
Right.
no conceit that make any sense. So I kind of took that idea of the surgery table and I extrapolated it a bit. And I imagined, okay, let's take ourselves back to like the Battle of Gettysburg in the Civil War, and there's however many tens of thousands of soldiers on the battlefield, and they only got a couple of surgeons. And there's no anesthetic and there's no modern surgery. And it's all about speed. So they get a guy on the table, got to amputate that leg really fast or whatever. And about 20% of the time, you might save them. Most of the time, you don't, but you got to
Yeah.
turn them over fast because of 10 other guys behind him that need an amputation, right? So you have the coffin, the box is the coffin, and you just, when they don't make it, you strap the coffin top on them and just ship that out, and then bring in the new surgery table for the next guy. And so we made a coffin shaped box, and Bill came up with this new hinge. So instead of opening flaps in the front, we lift the entire coffin top, we lift the entire coffin box and show the person on the table. The other thing that's cool about it too is I'll get a guy in like a Civil War uniform. So it'll, twist the plot a little bit. Instead of putting a pretty woman in a box and doing horrible things to her, we can just put a dude that's in a Civil War costume and cut him in half, and that feels a little better to me, I guess.
Randy, if you wanted, and I know you're a busy guy, I'm just saying, if you wanted, there is a whole Civil War reenactment circuit that
That's right.
is
That's
screaming
right.
for this illusion.
Yeah. Well, Bill and I have been joking we're going to call it the Pitchford Smith Wakeling song, and I said, look, hey, when I start doing it, some people might be into it. Like, I'm cool if anybody else that he thinks is cool wants one and he wants to build it for him, I'm fine with it. I'm not going to try to like. I've always had that attitude about magic. Like, we're all just building on the shoulders of each other anyway.
Oh, so
But I
true.
think it's a pretty cool idea. We got a couple other innovations with it. It's a little piece of a strip of balsa wood is in there, and when the person's inside and the coffin comes down, they could slip that into place so that now you actually saw through wood when you do when you do a real sawing. Like, we got this like rusty old big, like, it looks almost like a lumberjack saw, but it's based off of an old school like amputation saw that they used in the Civil War. And so there'll be real wood splinters and a real like cutting through the wood effect when we do it. So I'm looking forward to it, pressing it into service. Bill came up with an ingenious design to try to get that balsa wood into place, and added also a safety latch, so the person on the inside controls whether or not the staff can even go in. So the safety is controlled by the person inside the box, which is pretty nice.
Yep.
That is cool.
Couple other innovations. It looks beautiful. It's almost ready. I can't wait to perform it.
That's fantastic.
So, are you going to debut this at the castle? Maybe.
Probably not. I'll probably do it at the Peacock. I got a theater in Dallas called the Peacock Theater.
Yeah.
And we do a variety show once a month, and I mess around with stuff there. It's a great place to break in stuff because it's a very friendly audience, curated private audience.
So is that your playground right there, the Peacock Theater, where you kind of get to
one of them,
your place to yeah, obviously, yeah, for sure. But who is that audience? Who are the folks that are there? Now these are people that are your friends or that are a magic community, folks who just love magic. Who are the folks coming to these shows?
We've got a really interesting kind of wide audience. Some of them are people in local politics, actually. Some of them are people in local business, and local business. It's North Dallas, Frisco, Texas. Local business is big business. There's a lot of big companies that have their headquarters there. So there's some pretty interesting cats. But we're also kind of cultivating a variety arts scene down there. So there's a lot of folks that are in magic or in variety arts that tend to come. Probably less than 10% of the audience is that, but it's awesome. For that kind of community, and after the shows it tends to be a hang, so it's great to have everybody around.
That's very cool. Now is the same space or in a similar space as that? Because I read the article, I made notes. So is that where the Gallery of Intimate Magic is as well? Is that in the same
yeah, so
area?
it's in my house. The whole thing is sort of inspired by Brookledge. And so we've got the Peacock Theater is the main kind of showroom with this full stage, and the Gallery of Intimate Miracles is basically the close-up gallery from the Magic Castle. Same number of seats, same size room. Nice. And so we do close-up magic there before we load the main show.
Wow,
it's fun.
So tell me this: if you started off with close up, were you who were you immediately? I mean, I want to get into deep into your background with your great uncle and all of that. But who were you influenced as far as close up magic? Because like when I started, I was influenced by reading books by like Darwin Ortiz and stuff like that. Yep. Who were some of your early influences?
Yeah, I think the first one that really was like what you'd call real. So I got my first Magic set when I was 7 years old, and like every kid that gets one, um, you if you end up becoming a magician, you point to that. And certainly I think it demonstrated that I had the bug. I had the, 'cause not all of us do. A lot of us get magic sets, a few of us get hooked by it. Um, but I think after that, so I got Henry Hayes Amateur Magician Handbook, and that's a great book. And that's not for amateurs, man. I mean, there's a lot of the stuff there, but like you could build a career. You could build a
Yeah.
career out of what's in that damn book. So that was an early one. And then I got a copy of this is like way ahead of me, but I was 11 or 12 at a family reunion in Chicago, and Swan, Cardini's wife, gave me a copy of Bobo.
Mhm.
And it might have been Cardini's, I don't know.
Wow.
But it was way ahead of where I was at the moment, but it kind of opened my eyes. Later, of course, I'd get the David Roth book from Kaufman's David Roth book, and I got really into coins. And that was kind of my thing when I was a young up and coming magician. I was a coin guy.
Okay.
And I was very fortunate when I moved down to LA. There was this guy that worked at Wizards that I got really close with, who became a mentor. His stage name was Paul David, and nobody knows who he is. He was an underground guy. Would stroll the tables at Wizards, and we'd just sometimes be up till 5 in the morning talking magic, and he'd be showing me shit.
Yeah.
And that was awesome. That really accelerated not just my like repertoire of methods and technique and development of technique, but really got into theory and philosophy on a level that it's hard to get only from the books.
Wow. Wow. Yeah, I mean, it sounds like, you were in the trenches, you were doing it, you were sessioning with guys. So, this is interesting. And so there's so many
Once I
directions.
turned 21 too, I was at the castle 3 or 4 nights a week, and that was awesome.
Well, yeah, what better place to learn
Yeah.
and just soak everything up? Yeah.
Yep.
So Scott, I was talking to Scott earlier, just a few minutes before we started, but he had a couple of questions because I guess this interview is kind of going all over the place, but that's just how conversations go. So it's okay. So, but additionally, you are the CEO of Gearbox Entertainment, or you were the CEO of Gearbox. You are the CEO of Gearbox Entertainment. I know you have multiple businesses. Scott,
Yeah.
you had a question
Yeah.
about how magic, did you want to ask that question?
Yeah, just from the gaming perspective, obviously, you've done incredibly well. The games that you put out speak for themselves. Some of the best-selling and most well-known games on the planet. I was curious though, how, uh, what's the connection between magic and game development in your world? Do you see a
Yeah.
direct connection? What's the correlation? What lessons from magic did you carry to gaming, and then maybe vice versa?
It's astonishing how similar uh, it is. The correlations between magic and video games are amazing. On the highest level, obviously, they're both entertainment mediums, right?
Right.
And entertainment is awesome. Anytime we can put some effort in and create joy and happiness, like,
Yeah.
we're making the world cooler. And then the fact that we can commoditize the creation of joy and happiness in the form of entertainment so that people can make a living doing that is just wow. Like what a clever species we are. I feel so stoked to be a part of it. Um, but it goes deeper than that. I think that one of the things that magic does, which is identical to what games do, is magic. Like we don't say this out loud, but what we say to our audience is, and we say this in our opener, and we say it in our posture, in our body language, and our just the relationship we build with the audience. What we say is, hey, come along with me, follow along. I'm going to take you somewhere. I'm going to take you on this path, and I need you to come with me and trust me. And if you do come with me, I'm going to give you something. I'm going to give you a payoff at the end of this path that I'm going to take you on.
Right.
And it's a deal that we make with our audience. It's not spoken that way, but that's the deal. And that deal is so, so important because, to do good magic, we need to make that deal with the audience so that they are focused enough and they do come with us where we need them to go.
Yep.
So they get that payoff that we've designed for them, we've engineered for them. Now, most of the time in Magic, that end state, that payoff is a sense of wonder, it's surprise and delight, it's feelings like that. In video games, it often includes surprise and delight and wonder, but it also has this gratification component, like the sense of accomplishment.
Right.
But I think a lot of good Magic does that too. You know, a lot of great Magic kind of makes you feel like you've accomplished something because you got the effects.
Yep.
Like the audience, the effect only happens in the audience's mind, and they have to kind of make it happen for
Yep.
themselves by playing the game with us. And so you do feel that when you see a great effect and you're like, wow, that's impossible. You kind of also on a subconscious level know that you really created that. Otherwise it wouldn't be magical, because if magic were actually real, none of this would be impressive. The fact that we know that what we're witnessing is impossible is why it feels so cool to experience it, because we know it's not actually impossible. We know that we kind of got to, you know, be shown something that feels like it simulates that impossibility in a way that we can't explain. And it's just such a freaking cool reward. But it's almost identical to that deal that we make with our audiences in video games. And so that's one element that I thought. The other is the culture of it, the way information is passed around. The different kinds of people, like in Magic, you know, you'll have like purists that think that if you use a gaff, you're just shitty, you know. And then like and those same kinds of people exist in programming and video games. You know, it's like you can't use that pre-written. You got to roll your own, you know. And it's but then there's the other side of that same coin, which is like, hey, anything that helps with your goal is fair game. And there's, you know, the rules. We're trying to entertain here. We're trying to create wonder and joy here. So, you know, and those people exist too, and the clash between them is so interesting. There's people in video games that have developed very arcane, very secretive technique, and then there's others that will just give it up to anyone on the internet. And it's like sort of like the same conflict that we see in Magic exists in the video game development world, and it's really, really amazing to watch. It's hilarious. I think it just says more about who we are as a species than it does about either Magic or video games. I think it's just kind of the nature of people.
Absolutely.
That's great.
Yeah, absolutely. So all right, so because you see so much entertainment, because you have been a magician for so long, I'm wondering, you know, you're at the castle, you're performing shows and bringing people into the Peacock Theater. I'm just wondering, is there anybody that's like an up and comer that you're like, oh, you guys don't know who this person is yet, but you just wait because this magician or I don't know, variety artist, whomever has got it going on. You got any like little previews you can share with us? Yeah.
Yeah. In Magic, there's a bunch of people that I think are really, really interesting that I'm watching. There's a Chinese magician who's hanging out at the castle a lot, named David Shao, who has some great technique, but some really interesting presentational ideas, really weird. And his humor is kind of like, I don't think most people over the age of 50 can even like play with it, you know. But it feels like there's some things he's doing there that I think of a future presentation.
Wow.
That are very, very interesting. From a technique and just style perspective, there's this guy Franco Pasquale who works out of
his name keeps coming up. I keep hearing about this guy.
He's really, really good and really smooth, and I love how he's not pretentious in his presentation, even though he has every right to be. You know what I mean? It's almost the opposite of that, which is I think part of the method, and it's really awesome to watch him work. Um, let's see. There's I'm looking at a I'm looking at there's this woman out of New York City who is really, really funny. Her magic is good. Her arrangements are great, in my opinion. Her name's Rachel Wax, and
Yeah.
she
Okay.
is really, really funny. And she's just at the beginning of it. So if she keeps like, she's gonna just get better and better as an MC and as a host. And it's kind of a different vibe, because we're used to seeing dudes talking shit. We're used to seeing guys with these kind of in control attitudes that make them funny as host and MC. But to see Rachel pull it off is a really confident young woman is really, really delightful to watch. It's very, very entertaining. And she's had some good ideas that I've seen so far. And I think, she keeps progressing at that rate. She's gonna be a superstar.
Yeah, that's awesome.
I see Gabriella Lester
Mhm.
diving in head first, and she's like young and she's doing escapes
Yeah.
and but she's got a bunch of chops, but she's all in, man, and it's really cool to watch her develop. Yeah, I'm curious to see, her trajectory. But she's got the bug. She's not going anywhere.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. We
uh,
we had Gabriella came down and played House of Cards. That's where I'm
Mm.
involved with House of
Nice.
Cards. And
Yeah.
and when I saw her perform, I was like, wow, she has great stage presence. As I have
Mhm.
also seen Rachel, and Rachel also has incredible stage presence.
Yeah,
Just a
far
really confident.
and far and away beyond their, I mean, historically,
Wait,
traditionally, far and away
yes.
beyond their years. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and punching way above their weight class for that.
Yeah.
Like it's really awesome to watch that. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
so
Hey,
yeah,
speaking of
so
House of Cards, didn't
there's a lot though. I mean, I could if I keep thinking, I'm sure like and I probably I'm feeling bad right now because I know I've let people out, but I'm like Alex Boyce has been doing it for a while. You know, Alex, but it's
I've
awesome to see
seen
him
him. He's
with this
great.
very classic vibe, but kind of make
Mhm.
it cool and modern. But he could have been out of the 1950s and been fine, but he fits absolutely perfectly well in today's world.
Absolutely.
He's got a dove act, which you'd see fewer and fewer of those. Um, yeah,
He has
I like
that
Alex.
he has, like you said, he has that classic look, but because he looks so young, there's something very cool about how that, I mean, he looks like sort of like a male model doing magic, and he does it so extraordinarily well. But
Yeah,
so
do you know this guy, Kalen Morelli?
Yeah.
I I know
Uh,
of Kalen. I don't
Yeah.
know him,
yeah,
but yeah.
he's got some really his thinking's amazing, and
Yeah.
he's offering a lot of really cool stuff. Um, yeah, we haven't even begun to see what's going to come out of that brain. I am super stoked about his work.
And that's the other fun thing about Magic, right? And this is maybe another correlation with gaming is the level of creativity. I mean, we always hear it's refreshing, Randy, to hear your take on, just what you said about the Pitchford Smith Wakeling. I think we stick with that name, by the way. But
You know
what
what's
you,
funny is Wakeling didn't even call his own sign. The way to him it was a
yeah,
Selbit. It was a Selbit sign.
Selbit,
He
The
was calling,
Summit, yeah,
he called it the
that's right.
Selbit sign, even though he had all these brilliant innovations that made it a
maybe
way
that's
better
the
trick.
answer. Maybe that's the answer to Magic crediting. It's just a big lineage of names. That's the name of
Mhm.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
But what's refreshing about that is just, your openness about, this abundance mentality around magic is the only time we're going to run out of ideas is when people stop thinking and when people stop innovating. But as long as people are creative and innovative, and they keep doing that, magic is going to be fresh. All these negative thoughts about technology's killing magic. Well, no, technology has opened up a whole new door for magic
yep,
capability. But you mentioned Caleb, and that's what made me think about it, right? In terms of how creative and how much of an innovator he is. It's that level of creativity in Magic, I can only assume it's that level of creativity in gaming too that keeps everything so fresh and so new.
Oh
And
yeah,
and
we're infants. We're infants in gaming, frankly. We're like
Wow.
we're not we haven't even met Robert Houdin yet.
wow,
So we're just
Wow.
we're fetuses in
Oh my
gaming
gosh.
that's amazing
compared to
to hear.
Magic. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
wow.
So tell me this, since we're talking about people who are doing innovative things, I have consistently seen, so I'm in Nashville. Scott is also lives in Nashville, and so we both perform at House of Cards, which means we get to see a lot of magicians who are pretty regularly at the Magic Castle. They
Mhm.
come in, they're traveling and whatnot. I tell you what I see. I see a lot of magicians coming who like have the Magic Castle as like their home base, and they're really thinking about things from an extremely creative perspective. And I don't want to knock anybody else from anywhere else, but I think that sometimes, I think that when you're in a creative community and that creativity is nourished and it's specifically like there's a place where it is celebrated. I mean, like with all the awards and the different things that go on in the Magic community, I think that just, then you have some really interesting. Well, you could call it art, you could call it craft, but you have some really interesting entertainment that is coming out, and you have some really interesting magic that's being created. So let's talk a little bit about the Magic Castle.
Sure. I love talking about the Magic Castle. It is, one of the things like what you just said, I want to just I feel compelled to just touch because, it I think some of why there's some interesting innovation coming out of Magic Castle magicians is because of the culture and the environment. And we've been fortunate over the years to have some great trustees and magic leadership that have really helped push that. But I think mostly it's that there's like a bunch of showrooms. There's magic happening all the time. So
Yeah.
if you do a classic the way it's in the book, you're not gonna you're not gonna feel like you stand out. And so people are
Mhm.
always looking for ways to kind of stand out. But what's funny about it is it it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to just take something and twist it all the time. Like one of my favorite magicians on the planet is Jared Kopf, and I
Mhm.
love him most when he's doing the classics and he's putting his own take in the presentation, and
Mm,
he makes me feel like I would have felt if I, saw Malini do the egg bag.
mm,
But he does it in a way where it's not just, the exact prescription that we, read in the books. He's got his own spin on it, but it isn't a spin that's trying to like turn the trick upside down. It's still a bag and it's still an egg,
yeah.
and he's presenting it with the legit move, just better than anyone else on the planet right now.
Hmm.
Um, Same with his rings routine, his cups and balls routine. It's just they're the classics done well. So there's a lot of ways to win, I guess. And you know, I think if any audience that ever came into the Magic Castle was lucky enough to see Jared do any of that stuff, they'd leave thinking, "Wow, I just saw the best magic I've ever been seen."
Wow. And since you
So,
mentioned him,
yeah.
let me just go ahead and pitch that he's going to be at the IBM convention too. So,
Oh, that's right. That's right. My
Yeah.
buddy Jared's there. That's awesome. I'm excited.
so you guys will have time to hang out and chat
Yeah,
and
he's so
session.
fucking good. He's so
That's
good.
awesome. That is awesome. So you secured the future of the Magic Castle. I think that might be the best way to put it. With by so you purchased the castle and all the land and the hotel and basically, I've heard I've been in Magic for 30 years, and so I've heard the stories about the times when the Magic Castle was very lean as far as, they had to really watch their finances, and then I've heard the times when they were just killing it, and I know that there have been different times with folks that were quite nervous. So, but what the beautiful thing is, from what I understand, is that because you secured the future, now the Magic Castle can continue to flourish for Lord knows how long. I mean, for almost infinity at this point, as far as we know. So what was it, did you get behind that because you have such a history there with the castle? Going back, I'm guessing you went back, does it go back to the 80s for you, or is it early 90s?
Um, for me personally, the first time I stepped foot in the place was when I auditioned. And, I'm just a young magician, like I said, still braces on my teeth. And I'd read about it in Genie. I felt like I grew up with the place and I felt like I grew up with the family, but it wasn't until I auditioned that I walked in and it exceeded every possible thing I could have imagined. The fact that it was real and I was there, and then like I'm just looking around and seeing legends everywhere. It's like, what is happening? And I don't know. I think that one of the things I do, and I think I'd say this without hyperbole, everything I know about entertainment, I learned there. And so I feel
Wow.
like I owe it my career.
Wow.
But yeah, but I'm with you, for as long as I've known about the Magic Castle, let alone becoming a member and being a part of it, it's always been at risk. And there's always been even when it's like doing well, the landlords might sell it, or
Right,
when
right.
it's not doing well, it's like, hey, we need to figure out how the members can step up and keep the lights on. And for a long time, um, when I first joined, I didn't want to trade on my the fact that I'm a descendant of Cardini. So my stage name when I was working in Hollywood was I used my middle name as my last name, so I was Randy Stewart. And I
Okay,
didn't I
okay.
didn't want anybody to know that I was a descendant of Cardini because I could never live up to that standard. I'll never be as good as him. So but also I didn't want to trade on that. I wanted to see if I could get my own credibility. And but a few people knew, my sponsors knew. Billy McComb was one of them, and Milt knew,
Wow.
of course. And Milt was always really. I think part of me wants to believe that he treated me special, but I think he was just nice to everybody. But he really did. Uh, kind of look after me and give me attention that it's hard for me to believe he could have had that time for everybody, but I reciprocated, so like when he'd have a project or something, and after, at the beginning, before I ever got involved, the first 30 years, he had his brother Bill running things, and Bill and Irene were just the best, right? And Tom Glover Sr., who owned all the real estate, uh, he he was doing great. He was a Texas oil man, and he just wanted to spend his money on doing cool stuff. And here was this crazy kid that was happy to build all this amazing stuff. So Tom was his financier. Tom would just give him the resources he needed to do what he wanted to do, and that it was a beautiful relationship. But later in the second 30 years, when Tom wasn't there and when Bill wasn't there, and Milt also kind of got distracted. I don't want to say distracted, but he did the Variety Art Center and
Yeah.
some other things,
Sure.
and that was awesome. It's I think it's reductive to call that a distraction. Those varieties a passion of his, and I get it. It's a passion of mine too. I totally understand. But there was a weird kind of period where it kind of settled for a while, and then Bill was gone, and Tom Glover Sr. was gone, and
Yeah.
so the leadership kind of stopped and the money stopped. And so the castle didn't change. But Milt when he came back after the Variety Art Center closed, he still wanted to do stuff, but he didn't have his brother and he didn't have Tom Glover Sr. And the board was kind of, any given board, they're doing their own thing. Milt's like they want to be nice. They want to be nice to Milt, but they weren't like going to entertain his wild hares, or they certainly weren't going to spend money they didn't have on it.
Yeah.
So I kind of became this sort of secret sponsor for Milt.
That's
Cool.
So like
amazing.
one of the last renovations he did was the close-up room, and some people, I have fond memories of the way it used to be, but they needed to make some changes there for some fire code stuff and for some other things, and there was no money for it, so I gave him the money.
Wow.
Yeah.
And whenever he wanted to do a book, he's not going to write it. He doesn't write checks. Milt doesn't write checks. He cashes in. So so I'm like, yeah, I'll finance the book, and make sure it gets published, and it's fun. And he'd always have big promises, how much money we're gonna make, and they're like, I never got a penny back. I don't, but I knew it when I went into it. It wasn't about that. It wasn't
Yeah,
about making money. It was about just like, hey,
Right.
he's here. Let's let him do what he does, because it's magic when he does it. And
We
and
have
so
to
I think that
celebrate
was
our
a
treasures, right? We have to celebrate our treasures
yeah,
while we have them.
that's right. And I think that was a big part of it. So when the pandemic happened, the the Glover family, the 12 descendants that owned all the real estate, and they'll, of course, own the intellectual property. Well, the Glover family, for one reason or another, was ready to divest the
yeah.
property to sell it. And there was a developer that had bid, who had plans to build apartments and condos, and that probably would have been the end of it.
Mm,
And I mean, it would have
wow.
taken a minute, because there's some protected status, but I saw the plan. They were
Right.
going to completely encircle the place. You wouldn't even be able to see the castle from Franklin,
Wow.
because they would build in the front too. And then eventually, probably break it
Absorb.
down and,
Yeah.
yeah, and envelop it, starve it out, and then break it down, and then get some leniency with the city council in several years, and then build that space too. But
Wow.
that was the long range plan there. And I
Wow.
can't remember who poked me first. It was either Erica Larson or Wes McDonough, who was one of the family members, and let me know what was going on. And it was basically like, we think you're the guy. We think that
Mm.
we think that you and Christy are the ones. Um, I mean, Christy and I were married on that stage in
Yeah.
1997. You
That
know
is
what I
so
mean? So it's
cool.
like, like I don't know.
It's
So
your home.
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, but here's the thing. Here's the thing. It's all of our home. Everybody that's all the
Yeah.
members, everybody that spent the
Yeah.
time there. Like everybody kind of feels like they own the place, frankly, and they do.
Mm.
Yeah.
They do. But so I got together with Milt and talked about it, and yeah, he said, yeah, here's here's what we'll do. This is an opportunity, Randy, because if you get the real estate, we can combine the real estate and the intellectual property. And for the first time in the history, we can have the intellectual property and the real estate in the same
Wow.
place, making sure
Wow.
that it's safe forever.
Yep.
And I was like, okay, you gotta be the chairman, like, and we'll make the family. It's a family business again, just like how you and your brother started it. And so
Wow.
Erica became the president, and Jessica Hopkins, who's Bill and Irene's granddaughter, Erica's niece, became the COO, and Milt became the chairman of
Hmm.
we formed Magic Castle Enterprises to hold all of the intellectual property and the real estate and acquire it all.
That's
And
fantastic.
Wow.
yeah, what's funny too is like I had to go fast. I had to get all of the family members. I had these meetings with them, some separately, and then one big meeting with everybody together, and had to convince them. And I thought that was going to be the hardest thing. And it was really, really hard. And the story of that is it's pretty gnarly. It's for another time. It's for another
Okay.
time.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I was so wrong that was the hardest part. I completely underestimated the political nature of the governance of the academy, and how that
Yeah.
was going
Oh yeah.
to slow us down and complicate things once we got it done. But it doesn't matter. It's in for a penny, in for a pound, right?
Sure.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Scott, I have several more, but I want to give you an opportunity to
Well,
jump in.
I mean, I know you've heard it many times, Randy, but I'll just say it. Thank you for doing that. Because I mean, what you've allowed magic to continue to have is this, this physical manifestation of magic, internationally, obviously, in particular for the US. But I was thinking about what you were saying earlier about um, video games and the similarities, and it occurred to me that one of the cool things about a video game, of course, that it's immersive, right? You're entering into a new world,
Yeah.
and that's a virtual experience on a screen or a computer, but it can still be incredibly, especially now, it can be incredibly immersive. With magic, it's the closest thing we can get is actually the real thing at the castle.
Yep.
right? You're walking into the
Yeah.
world of magic. You're walking into your imagination. I remember first time when I was a kid and we went to a Sunday brunch because that's all I could get into at the time with my family. And
Mhm.
I was, had been bitten by the bug maybe a year or two before. And you walk into this place. I didn't even have the level of appreciation for the castle, anything close to what I have now. But even then, I knew what it meant and what the symbolism was. And we walk in, and it's, to a 13-year-old kid, it's just mind blowing. It's
Oh yeah.
like walking into your imagination. So the fact that it's still there is a testament to all the work that everyone who came before has done to get it to that point, and now that it is still there and will continue to be there, a testament to the people who are still working on it, but in particular to you and Christy. So thank you.
Well, thanks for saying that. I accept that. I don't want to be reductive, or diminish the thanks, but I'll tell you, I think everyone who loves the place is doing what they can give. You know, the fact that we had resources and had, the family connections for so long put Christy and I in a very unique spot, where the universe kind of picked us to be the custodians, and we're
Love it.
definitely living up to that. But the truth is, everyone is doing what they have to offer. I was talking with Chris Hart, who I love, one of my favorite magicians on the
Yeah.
planet, who's the chairman of the board of trustees, and he puts an ungodly amount of time and
Mm,
energy to his work and the work of the trustees. And he I in some ways I think his sacrifice is even greater because
mm,
he's a working magician. He doesn't have that time, or that time can be used to help his career, but he's giving what he has. And that he's just one of like countless examples of people. And I remember when the last conversation I had with Max
mm.
Maven,
Yep.
and I asked him. He knew, like it was day of, and he's made his choice,
Yeah.
and um and I said, look, what do you want to leave me with? You spent more time in there than I have, and this place is yours as much as anyone else's. What do you want to put in my brain as I kind of go forward, and to paraphrase it, he said, look, there's people that have gotten a lot out of the castle and will do anything they can to give it back.
Mm,
And those
mm,
those are the ones that we must always embrace and and let them care for them. And then there's other people that kind of see what the engine can do, and they're just going to take from it. And they're the
Mhm.
ones you have to they're the ones you have to be careful for.
yeah.
Mhm.
And what I did not appreciate the sentiment at the time, and I came to appreciate it
Mm.
later as I began to navigate, the politics
As was the case
of
with
the
so many
academy.
things, as was the case, so many
Yeah,
things that Max said, right?
yeah. Oh my God, that guy is.
Brilliant.
I miss him so much. I miss him so much.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So I understand that before you were able to before you became a member of the castle, you were involved in the Hollywood International Brotherhood of Magicians Ring
Yeah, Ring
21.
21. Yeah, yeah. That was my gateway. Yep.
Nice.
Yeah, we met at the church down like literally 2 blocks from the Magic Castle, right on the corner of Highland and Franklin. Yeah,
That is cool.
yeah, Magic Club meeting at a Catholic church. It was great.
Of course. Yeah. No, it's
All magic clubs meet at
great.
churches, don't they?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think so.
exactly. Yep.
That's cool. Okay, so we're gonna wrap up here. We have a few more minutes. I
I
did
have
want
one
to ask.
more
Yeah,
question, but
okay,
I
I
don't.
have one more too. So go ahead, Scott, hit it up.
Yeah, okay, me first. Okay. Going back to, I know I keep tying things back to the gaming, but it's just everything you said. I hadn't even considered all the similarities in terms of what you were talking about before, Randy, in terms of gaming and magic. I mean, some things are more obvious than others, but what you were talking about is very layered. And so, question I have, AI is a buzzword in today's world. Technology continues to accelerate in terms of what we can do. Hearing the guy who is kind of at the top of the gaming world say things like gaming is in its infancy is kind of mind-blowing to me. And it's a, completely unexpected perspective. So I'm curious, to tie in magic, advancements in technology, AI, what you see in the future of gaming, what do you also see in the future of magic, and how do you see those two creative arts and those two creative entertainments continuing to evolve in the coming years from a technological standpoint?
Yeah, they are both really intertwined, those futures. I think we have we have these really incredible machines in our heads, our brains, that can simulate the future, and we can simulate a lot of tracks at the same time. And this adaptation is necessary for our survival, but it also gives us the ability to imagine and pretend,
Right.
and also to predict what might happen next. And it's that predictive quality that is what magicians exploit
Yep.
to set up something that feels like there's a logical next step, and then we fracture that
Hmm.
so that you think something impossible's occurred. And that, no matter what changes with tech, like that part of how our brains work isn't changing.
Yeah.
And it's fun to stimulate that and play with that. And magic also helps us understand that it even works that way. And the thing that magic does that no other medium does is it playfully lets us flirt with our relationship with truth.
Hmm.
And I think that in this, as we look at how, what is the nature of truth, and we think about how information works, and we think about how reality can be simulated, and how new tools and technologies can fool us into believing that we're seeing a video of someone that never happened, or we're hearing a voice from someone that they never said that.
Right.
This, like, understanding our relationship with truth has never ever been more important. And it's funny, as it goes all the way back. Like, if you get Reginald Scott and you look at Discovery of Witchcraft from 1584, like this section that he exposes some of the magic methods from back then that are in the book, his introduction to that talks about the same exact idea. He paraphrasing, he talked about how at first he didn't want to write the chapter. He didn't want to expose the secrets of the jugglers. Magicians were jugglers back then.
Yeah.
We were all buskers back then. But he did, because it might hurt their livelihoods. And a magician isn't merely tolerable, he says, but they're commendable, because they're not trying to claim that it's real. In fact, they're telling you it's fake. That's part of the conceit. The magic is a trick, and when the trick succeeds, you not only get that moment of surprise and delight and wonder, but you also, on a subconscious level, are taught that is possible. And in so doing, you can better inoculate yourself against other things in the world where they're not telling you they're lying, where from charlatans or misinformation. And this is why magic is so important. And the corollary, like on the video game side, is that video games do something very similar, where they invite you into something that isn't real. They want you, like, a video game it's a simulation of reality. And each tool that we've got some cool new tools, like large language models,
right?
That can be generative, and tools that can allow us to synthesize a voice and video now. And these are tools, and they're just like every tool we've ever had, from the tall tale of Paul Bunyan racing against the machines that were drilling the holes through the mountains to today. It's the same tale. And those of us that learn to use the tools can do amazing things with them, and make our species have a better time, and a more interesting time, and a more convenient time, and a more comfortable time, and all those great things. And when we're talking about entertainment, I think it's really, really exciting, because maybe the last invention will be something along the lines of, like, the Star Trek holodeck,
Yeah.
where
Yeah.
you can be, it's just, you can't distinguish it from reality in any way, shape, or form.
Yep.
But we will still need those people to create the experiences. Well, so video game makers and magicians will still have fun work to do, even if we had a holiday, because
They'll always
we
need to
have to
be.
create we have to create what's happening in there.
Yeah, they'll always have to be programmers, right?
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah,
exactly. And
magicians or
magicians are
gamers.
programmers.
Yeah,
Magicians are
That's cool.
programmers.
That
yeah,
is cool.
that's great.
Yeah.
All right,
Yeah.
I just want to know because, it's crazy that now towards the end of the interview, we're gonna talk very, very briefly. Your great uncle being Cardini. I just want to know if you have like a story or an anecdote or something that maybe, I don't know if it's been told before that. I don't really care, but do you have like a little favorite thing that you're like, here's what, I think it said in the article that your Uncle Sam was the one who was telling you about him. And then of
Yeah.
course, Swan as
Yeah.
well. Is there any
Yeah.
anecdote or story you want to share with us?
Well, look, he died when I was 3 years old, so I don't
Yeah,
have any
sure.
memory. I don't have any memory of him. You know what? This is a fun one. So my Aunt Carol, Swan and Richard's daughter, recently, I'd say probably about a year ago, less than a year ago, came out to Texas for a wedding in the family, and there were, I don't know, 30 extended Pitchford family members at this thing, and but none of them knew about Cardini, and so
Huh.
Aunt Carol, like, and even Aunt Carol, like, she's always so. If you speak to her, she's like, she always is so apologetic. She's like, I didn't know my parents as performers,
Oh,
and
wow.
they were working a lot. They were on the road a lot. I spent as much time with my nanny as I did with or other families as I did with my parents. But I can't tell you about how they were on stage. I can just tell you about the memories I have of them at the house, right? Um, and so she wanted to help these younger Pitchfords learn more about Cardini, and I showed her this talk that I did at one of Bill Smith's collectors expos a number of years ago, and I actually just did it again at 4F last month.
Mm.
Um, but she's like, Randy, if we bring everybody by, can we take the whole wedding party? We'll bring them into the theater, and you just tell them about Cardini. And I'm like, yeah, sure.
That is
I'm
awesome.
I'm lecturing to the Pitchford clan, telling them who Cardini is, and
Oh,
they're like, we had no idea.
oh,
It's
wow.
really kind of interesting.
That's
That
Um,
is great.
but yeah, I don't think I told anyone that one, but but yeah, when I was a kid, he was like larger than life. My Sam, my grandfather's brother, just absolutely adored him, and kind of worshipped him and would just talk about him all the time.
Oh,
And
that's
he went
cool.
whenever he was within 100 miles of where Cardini was performing, Sam would be there and watch the show. Uh,
Nice.
yeah, so so I got a lot of that, and man, I wish I could have seen him perform. But he
Oh, I
was
know.
yeah,
Sure.
we
Yeah.
only have the film, we only have the
yeah.
film.
Yeah. Yeah.
I bought the reel from Eddie Dawes. Eddie shot a film of Cardini in Dr. Grossman's backyard in Minneapolis.
Okay.
And he's doing billiard ball color changes, parts of the routine that he's
Oh,
cut
wow.
from the television. And
Oh, wow.
so I bought I just showed it recently at the 4F uh, convention, and it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. I'm
That is
having it.
cool.
I'm actually having it redigitized right now in higher resolution,
Excellent.
um, just to get a better version of it. But it's so cool to see him work. The guy was mad. Oh, and I got this other footage from the Bob Hope estate that I
Oh,
also
wow.
showed. Yeah, so there was this Bob Hope documentary that came out a few years ago, and in the first 10 minutes, I talked about Bob Hope was a vaudevillian, and he performed in all the greatest vaudeville stages, and alongside sword swallowers, and there'd be like a 1 second clip of the sword swallower jugglers, and 1 second clip of magicians, and then there's a 1 second clip of a magician. And it was Cardini, and it
Oh,
was a
wow.
clip I'd never seen before. So I got a hold of the filmmakers, and they put me in touch with the editor, and the editor told me that he got the footage from the archivist at the Bob Hope estate. So he put me in touch with him, and I talked to that guy, and I asked him, "Hey, is there more of that footage?" He's like, "Yeah, I think so. Is there any chance I can see it?" And he's like, "What do you want it for?" And so I told him who I was and what my interest was. And he said, "Let me think about it." And I didn't hear anything for months. And then I got in the mail, I got a disc that had the footage on it that he sent me.
Wow. That
And
is
it was
cool.
and it was film footage shot by Bob Hope from the wings of the Palace Theater in New York. And
Wow.
it's 30 seconds. It's three 10-second
Wow.
pieces, but one of them he's doing a vanish, and you could see it from the side view, which you're not supposed to see.
Yeah.
And what he does is not what we all do or what we thought he was doing.
Oh, wow.
Like, so it's the thing where you've left half the deck in your left hand, and you've got the other half of the deck in your right hand, spread into a fan, and you're going to wave the fan over the left,
Yep.
the packet in the left hand and make it vanish. Right, classic sequence in a manipulation app.
Yep.
And usually, what we do is when we wave the fan over, we clip it with the pinky of our right hand and we add it to the back of the fan.
Yep.
So when he does it, he does the fan, and then it's gone, and he's still, and then he turns his hand and he shows the back to the audience. I think as if show the magicians like, "Hey, I didn't steal it. It's not back there." Got you. And I watched that thing frame by frame, and whatever he does happens between two frames.
What?
Because
Oh my gosh.
one frame the packet is there, and the next frame it's freaking gone.
That is
and
cool.
I think he actually ditches it on the front of the fan. And I think it's just the timing and the motion are just flawless, so that it's undetectable. And so he's doing it right in the open, and he gets away with it.
That is cool.
And I think, but I can't tell because it's the information just isn't there. It happens between the two frames.
Wow.
It's really, really cool.
This has been unbelievable. Friends listening, let me just say to you, if you have enjoyed this, our guests of honor at the I.B.M. convention this year are Randy and Christy Pitchford. They are going to be there. They are going, from what I was looking at the schedule, Randy, and it looks like you guys are going to be doing some programming for us. You're going to be sharing some stuff with us. I'm very excited to see and hear what you have to share with us. And then I also saw that you're part of the Order of Merlin event, which makes me just wish that I was an Order of Merlin guy, because I'm like, I don't have enough years to go to that. But we're just so thankful for your time, and we really appreciate you being willing to spend some time and share with us. Looking forward to meeting you. My gosh.
This is a really, I know you do it for the money, because I'm sure it pays so much. Listen, you guys are doing it too, man. We're just sharing the love of magic and sharing the joy of magic, and it's awesome what you guys do. So thank you for having me and for taking some time to talk with me on it.
It has been our pleasure. Friends, if you want to learn more about the International Brotherhood of Magicians, just join us at magician.org. That is magician.org. To learn more about the I.B.M. convention, which is this July 9th through 12th in Houston, Texas, the website is ibmconvention.com. We have a ton of great talent. If you love magic, if you're even just a fan of magic and not even consider yourself a magician, you can still attend. We would love to have you come and check out the convention and learn about magic and learn magic and see magic shows and just participate, just jam with us and have some fun. If you've enjoyed the podcast, you can connect with us through our social handles, and they are part of the show notes. And leave us a review about this podcast, because we want other people. You don't have to be a magician to listen to this podcast. This is something out there for the entire world to discover. And if you enjoy the art of magic, this is your opportunity to spread the word. And the best way to do that is by leaving us a review and subscribing, so that you know the next time that a podcast episode comes out. On behalf of Scott Cantrell and the non-existent Ben Young, I've been your host, Jason Michaels, our guest of honor here, Randy Pitchford. You guys have a great rest of your day. Thank you so much. Take care.